Just kidding. Don't put that on the internet. How's it feeling this morning? Not at school, not at work, right? We'll do a little riders meeting here, kind of go over different topics. And then we're going to hop out on the track and warm up for 20 minutes. Has everyone here ridden a motocross track before? There you go. We always have the half raised hands on that question. I'm a little embarrassed. It's fine. Just to relieve your soul a little bit, we'll spend about 90% of our day down on that flat starting line down there. I'm sure you can ride through that, so I wouldn't get too worked up. The only reason I ask is for the warm-up, just kind of take it slow. You can go out on the motocross track if you feel like you can get around it safe. Just putt around and get warmed up. Otherwise, there's a smaller track up on the hill, or I don't really care if you go do circles in the grass. I just want you to ride, get the brain and the body working a little bit. So you have a 20-minute window for that. And then we'll come back in, and what we're going to do is we're going to take all of our bike stands, and we're going to line them up along that fence line right there, and we are going to do some stationary work. So, you know, before you go out or right after you come out, bring your stand up there. We'll get the bike situated. We'll likely do a big circle. We got a fairly large group. Does anyone have an extra bike that I could use for, you do? Okay, great. Extra stand too? Oh gosh, look at you.
You didn't bring your bike?
No, they wouldn't let me put it on the plane. I don't know why. I'm like, I could probably fit it in this seat if you guys would just let me try. No, I'm actually building a van out right now as we speak so I can send it on the road next year and have all my stuff, because the stuff out of the rental car is driving me nuts. Selling the t-shirts, all that, it's like, this isn't the right way. So anyways, unfortunately, it's a big, you know, investment to do all that and hire a guy to send on the road. So we needed a year to make sure this was going to work and that you guys are going to show up. And now next year will look pretty different. But anyway, so we'll do our stand work there, and then we're going to head on over to our corner track. I'm going to set up just like a little triangle down there. We'll split into two groups, and then we're just going to bust through drills all day long. That we're going to try to have a good feel for and understand today. We're going to have 3 seated positions and 3 standing positions. And the idea behind all of my coaching is that we're trying to figure out how to get in balance with the movement of the bike. Okay, the bike's constantly moving forward, it's constantly moving backwards in theory under brakes, and then it's constantly left to right. Most of our work today will be understanding the front to back balance. I think that you almost have to understand the front to back balance for your body to compute side to side balance, right? Which is when I'm like, what do you guys want to learn? It's like, I want to learn how to hit ruts, or I want to learn how to whip, which is off the table, by the way, so don't even ask today. But you got to understand how the bike works and how your body works with it before the ruts really even can work. And so the idea of learning the front to back balance first is going to help your ruts just naturally without you even having to go practice the ruts, because you're understanding how to place your body in the right part of the bike to get it to work correctly. Okay, so the first position that we're going to go over is going to be a neutral seated position. Again, we've got 3 seated positions, and then we've got 3 standing positions. So I want everyone to start with their feet. Just got hit by a bug in the face. I want you to find the foot peg right underneath your toes. Okay, I want you to kind of move it back further than you think. And then your second cue for your feet, I want you to turn your feet in until the bike doesn't allow them to go in anymore. Okay, so turn your toes in towards the bike until your feet can't move anymore. And then forever and ever, this is your cue for correct foot position. Can I feel it underneath my toes? It's kind of that crease in between your toes and the ball of your foot. Right? That's the area where the front of the foot peg should land, because when we stand up, then the ball of our foot's landing on the foot peg. So you kind of feel that crease there. Okay? Everyone there? Let's do a little quick check. Looks beautiful. Raise your hand if you feel like you ride with your foot there in the corners. Good. Okay, sweet. Well, there's win number 1 of the day. We're going to switch that up. Okay, and then from there, we'll move up to our knees and put a little pressure on the bike with your knees. Now squeeze it as tight as you can until your legs start to shake. Everyone feel that? Those muscles need to be strong, okay? Have you guys ever used the good girl, bad girl machine at the gym?
I do.
There you go.
I purposely do it because of motocross.
Yeah, there you go. That's a good one. If you got a gym and they've got equipment, usually that machine lives there. Use the crap out of it. Along with your big movements, your squats, your lunges, your deadlifts, all the big muscle movements. But that one's good because it gets those inner thighs to work, where there's not a lot of exercises that you come across that get them to work. Okay, and I don't think that you need to squeeze the life out of your bike 24/7, but I do think that you need to be able to when the time calls. Right? You need to be able to grab onto that thing under heavy power, or if it's starting to dance left or right, you need to be able to get it. Okay, and there will be times your knees are a little loose or they're just kind of touching the bike. Okay, so we're moving up from our knees, and notice that we're working from the ground up. You should always work from the ground up with your body position, both seated and standing. We're going to go up into our hips, and this is where most people have a hard time, is I want you to think about not sitting on your butt, moving your butt out of the way and kind of rotating your hips and getting them to turn outward so you got a real nice flat low back. Okay? Most people start their round in their back from their low back. All right, then we all have low back problems. Okay, so we want to start here, and just remember our seated position is the foundation for our standing position. So if we're rotated and tucked under here, when we stand, we're going to tuck under. And when we tuck under, our head goes straight up and our arms go straight. So the only way to get low and have the space that you need for the bike to work underneath you is get the hips out of the way, basically. You're moving them out of the way. I want to get here, get them out of the way, because when I stand, I want them to be back there. Okay, is everyone there? All right, now get as tall as you can in your back. There you go. I want you to see if you can feel like you're going 2 inches tall. The idea here, guys, and I've got injuries to kind of prove this theory, is that if we train, especially in our slow drill stuff, with a nice long, tall back, we're engaging our core. We would all agree that here takes a little work, right? Here doesn't. All slouch down for me. Just kind of sit into your bones. No work, right? We just relaxed, if you will. So we just turn the muscles off. So if we train that way, we're just basically pounding our spine. So we have constant movement. Even the smooth conditions, we have up and down movement because of the power in the brake. Okay, so if we train here, we're going to build strength in our core where we need it, and you guys are going to see that when we get into our standing drills today. If you don't have it, you'll fade fast. Okay, but if we train here, we're going to protect our spine, and my Pilates teacher always says, you're only as young as your spine. And I think that's true, right? Because as soon as I started having neck surgery and all these other things, I could just feel my athleticism kind of declining, just different little things just weren't as good as they used to be. And so you want to protect your spine, and how you do that on a dirt bike is a long, flat back and a strong core. Okay, so we'll start with that. And then from there, just take your upper body and take your hands on the handlebars and take your pointer fingers out, resting on your controls, pointing towards your front fender. Okay, I want you to point at your front fender. And then I want you to check and see where your levers are. And if you're pulling on the knuckle of your levers need to go in on the handlebars to get your finger to land in that little crevice right there. Okay, so you have to turn my hands in to get there because of her levers being too far out. I'd move her, and she's got the bars that don't allow it for the most part, but I'd move her levers in another inch, and I think everyone probably could afford to do that. I think your front brake looks good. It looks pretty good. There's a handful of you guys that are good. I will say over time, this whole lever placement, I don't know if it's the videos that are making it happen, but I used to come to these classes and it would be so wild, way up here, way down there. Now everyone's kind of, I think, getting it. So anyways, we'll give you a 10-minute window to adjust your controls when we're done with this whole drill set. And I highly suggest that you over-exaggerate those levers in because it's going to drive your upper body into the right position without having to think about it as much. Okay? And then from there, we have our second seated position is going to be our accelerated seated position. So you think about, well, first off, let's go back a step. Can anyone guess where you would use a neutral seated position on the track?
Corner.
Neutral. Yeah, corner. What part of the corner?
Middle.
Entrance. Okay? It's going to be in the entrance of the corner. So think about every position that you guys learned today has a movement attached to it. Okay? In your neutral is a neutral speed. Okay? So if you're at neutral position, your bike's basically not picking up speed and not slowing down. Okay? And then if we're accelerating, we got to be moving forward. If we're braking, we got to be moving back. So there's a moment in the corner that you have to take that you might not even think about ever. I call it the setup zone, when you get your bike to lean over before you hit the gas. Right? And that's typically in the first quarter part of the corner. Can you guys hear me back there? Because there's a lot of space in front if you guys want to circle around and can't hear me. Or you're just tired of looking at my back. All right, so the first quarter of the corner is going to be a neutral seated position. That's after we've sat down and braked, before we get on the gas. And then we're going to talk about the second piece. At the apex of the corner, it's funny that this is happening today. They were landing yesterday, now they're taking off. I did a camp. One of my only rules, a little quick story, one of my only rules with these camps is that there's not other riding going on, so I'm not having to yell the whole time, right? I just did a camp in Washington like a month and a half ago, and they're like, yeah, no, we're shutting down for the day. We get there, and it's literally like over that tree line is an Air Force base, and they're flying every 8 minutes was a fighter jet taking off. And it was the most loud, like shake your body, have to pause the whole thing, right? So every 8 minutes I had to take like a minute break, right? It was quite, that reminded me, I'm like, oh man, at least it's not a fighter jet, I guess, you know? So anyways, we won't be going back there, needless to say. So from our neutral seated position, we hit the apex of the corner and we accelerate, right? We would all agree that we accelerate coming out of the corner, right? From there, where most people make their mistake is they sit neutral, or they sit straight up and down, or they even slouch, and they just hit the gas and hold on, right? And as soon as you hit the throttle and there's no upper body movement, you connect the bike with your hands, right? So you hold on with your hands, right? If I hit the gas and this bike goes in front of me, I do this, right? I engage with my forearms and my delts, and I kind of get really heavy in the hands, okay? Now, if you do it the opposite way, where as you hit the throttle and however much throttle you turn dictates how much body movement you have, if you hit the throttle and move with it, now the bike's pushing me along. I haven't fallen behind the center line of the bike, and I don't need my arms, right? I don't need them, and that's the arm pump is the biggest thing. I saw one of these guys, I think it might have been you, pulled over like, aha, that's enough, right? And arm pump's a big deal, and a lot of it stems, I think, from nutrition and just fitness off the bike, but on the bike, it's just that you're in your arms 24/7, right? Your arms are holding you onto the bike. And so the idea today is get out of our arms, basically, all right? So our forward movement, everyone come down here with me, all right? Tight feet, tight knees, hips rotated out. We'll get down to this accelerated position. However much you accelerate is how far you're gonna go forward. So if you're all the way down, in theory, you're probably pretty much wide open. So your elbows are gonna come into your rib cage just a hair, right? And then from here is gonna be our third position, which would be our brake back position. So you guys can just hang out there. All that is coming off throttle, finding the brake, okay, on both your feet and your hand, and then sitting upright and hitting the brakes. Okay, so that would go from here, neutral, power forward, brake back. Okay? And do we roll power on or do we dump power on coming out of the corners? Roll power on. And then when we go to our brakes, do we roll power off or do we chop power off? I get people every time. Anyone else? So we go, whoa, and then we hit the brakes, or we go, whoa, and then hit the brakes. We dump power off. We chop power off, right? We roll power on, we chop power off. So that should let you know that whatever our upper body does, or whatever our wrist does, our upper body has to do. So we roll power forward, and then we chop power off. It's a quick back movement. It feels weird because we don't have any movement with the bike here, but you got to think about the body's got to match what the wrist does. Okay, that'll be one of our first drills, is trying to figure out how that works. Okay, so we all understand neutral seated. Get here with me, and you guys are gonna have an opportunity to go through this whole sequence because I'm gonna make you guys teach it. Okay, so neutral seated, accelerated seated. All right, you can turn gas if you want, or if you don't have a two-stroke, you're gonna flood it, and then off into the brakes. Okay, now where most people make the mistake, even if they are getting to the right position under acceleration, is that they go off and they coast a bunch of land, a bunch of feet before they hit the brakes. The first thing that we're going to work on is tying the right position to on throttle, off equals brake. So like I'm turning the gas, when it hits the stopper forward, I'm on the brakes. Okay, the quickest way to create more comfort and speed is to get more efficient with your brakes. Okay, I asked this question at every camp. Hey, how do you get faster comfortably on the track? And everyone's like, technique, they're thinking about what they think they should say, rather than thinking really deeply about what would actually create comfort. And it is 100% being the master of braking. Because if you feel like you can slow your bike at any point, you're going to drive to the corners hard enough because you have the confidence that you can put it in whatever line you want to put it in. Okay, so a lot of our riding today is going to be understanding your brakes and how to tie throttle to brakes. And then once you release, little setup zone, back on throttle. Okay, everyone clear on that? So let's get into the standing part, and then we'll rotate through it all, and you guys will get more reps in the seated. Don't you worry. So let's go neutral seated, everyone. I'm going to show you the easiest way to get to the right standing, and it just kind of leads how it would on the track. Accelerate forward. Okay, now from here, I want you to do everything in your power not to let your head rise. Okay, we would all agree that my chin's right over the bars. Yours should be about there as well. And when I stand up into a neutral standing position, my head doesn't go with it. Okay, it's just legs. All right, that's going to be the easiest way to find the correct standing position that most people don't get into. You want to know why? Because most people do this. This is standing position. We straighten the arms out. Why do most people not stay low? You can go let go with your hands here if you want. Come back up. Why? Can anyone answer why do you think that most people don't stay low with their upper body?
Because that's an athletic position that they're not in.
They're not strong enough to do it. This is much easier on the core. If you just go here, right? I'm just standing up and talking to you guys as if I would if I was standing on the ground having a conversation. But if I go here, you can just feel your core go, oh, if I don't turn on, this guy's falling forward. And lower back, which you're gonna feel a lot today. You might as well get the icy hot out. Okay, call the masseuse. You're gonna need them tomorrow. Okay, if we don't have core strength, you might as well hang it up. Sell your dirt bike if you're not willing to put a little effort in to get core strength. Okay, it's so dangerous because you just ride in the most comfortable way, which is in an incorrect position. You just want to be upright. So you just have all this leverage up top. Your arms are straight, so whatever the bike does, it's pulling your body along with it. When you're down here, the bike can do whatever it wants, and the core of your body stays neutral, right? It stays stable. Okay, so we have to get this piece. All right, so everyone get here in neutral standing for me. I want to do a little check on the knees. So I want everyone to look at my knees if you can see them. My knees are behind the foot pegs. If your knees aren't behind the foot pegs, you need to move them back. Your steg pegs are kind of messing up our little, aren't they?
Yeah, they are.
You can make them longer, can't you?
Yeah, I can push them out there.
Yeah, I would bottom those things out back there. I've had riders use them, and I think they're good, but I think that you got to get them way in the back position. You hit a jump at neutral speed, meaning you picked up your speed and you leveled off. Let's just say in theory that jump required 25 miles an hour. If you got to 25 miles an hour before the jump and you maintain 25 off, this is your position you would go off the jump. Okay? All right, and from here we have an accelerated standing position, which is, in theory, if you have to accelerate through a jump phase or the track's rough coming out of the corners, you got to get off the seat fast. You have to be able to accelerate standing and still be in balance. Okay, so all that is your head kind of goes low and towards the front fender while not compromising your eyesight. Okay, so you can feel it a little more in your hands the way we're doing it, but you got to think about, we're going to have 50 horsepower pushing us from behind when we're doing it on the bike. Okay, so you won't feel it in your hands at that point. It'll feel like you're kind of flying off the front of the bike. It's actually a pretty cool feeling. And we will do one-handed drill standing. We'll do some no-handed braking stuff. We'll do stuff where you guys understand, you truly get an understanding what balance feels like. Now going into our third standing position, which I think is maybe the most important to understand, is going to be your brake back standing position. Okay, so you go from here, we're accelerating forward, we're all off the front, and I want you guys to make sure that you squeeze the bike right now with your knees, and then we're going to take our hips and we're just going to rotate them down towards the seat as we touch the brake. So watch my foot. Can you see how it's traveling forward without my knee going with it? I want you to clamp on with your knee and travel your foot to the brake and then squat down and low. Okay, and try not to tuck your butt under when you do it. Try to keep those hips rotated out. Knees way back over there. Look at me, I just, because it'll be how you ride the bike, not how you think you need to. That's what it comes down to. Okay? Feels weird, again, because we don't have a bike slowing us down. When we do, it'll feel like you're in balance. Okay, and then from here, we would be going into the corner, so our foot would travel back to the peg, and we'd sit down. And that, my friends, is the whole entire track. Okay? That's the positions that you need to be able to get around this whole track in the correct position. If you can figure out those, really 5, right, if you don't count braking seated, which you're going to do very little of, if you can figure those out and how they apply to the track and figure out the timing of them, because timing is a big key factor on it all, your whole life changes riding your dirt bike. Forever. And I just did a video on Instagram right before we started today, and it was basically around how technique is kind of infiltrating riding at the moment. We had Jason Wygant here yesterday, and he would agree. He's like, yeah, there's not been, like, us announcers weren't talking about technique even 3 years ago. Wasn't a thing. No one cared. We're just like, they're really fast, we're not. That's why they're making a living racing, and that's why we're not. But I think we really kind of messed everyone up in the sense that if you take the time to develop these, especially as a young kid, you at least have a shot. But you do not if this isn't the main focus first. Because in 15 years, everyone will look like Jet. They'll have their own style, but they'll be in perfect balance like Jet. They'll be able to set their bikes up like Jet, a little softer, a little more balanced, right? There's no chance. You don't make it inside the top 40 in 10 to 15 years unless your technique is dialed. And it'll evolve, of course. But I just think the old days of winging it and being really strong and being able to hold on, the Ricky Carmichael style of riding, it's so far gone. Like, you can even see that with Barsha. He's just slowly going backwards until someone smooths him out right? He's good. He's really good. And his technique isn't bad. He's just too aggressive, right? He's too aggressive. And so I think that he's just going to fade out the back, and then people that are putting time into this are just going to start to fill in the spots, right? The Hunters, when Hunter gets up on a 450, he's just as good as Jet. Just doesn't get as much credit, I think. He might even be better, more perfect technically than Jet. So these guys will just kind of move these other guys out the back. So why I say that is that if we're going racing, and most of our riding, for a youngster at least, is focused on racing, you're spinning your wheels. Who cares if you win the 65 7-11 class? And I don't mean that in a demeaning way. I mean that if you want to win Loretta's when you're 16 and get a $250,000 sign-on bonus to Geico or whatever these teams are now, Star Racing, Yamaha, you need to figure out how you can be really technically good when you're young, and then when the time comes, you could be really fast. Because the rest of it doesn't matter. And then for my riders that are in the vet class, it's like, you just need to get to work on Monday. I mean, we're talking about making money for the youngsters. You got to make it too. And I promise you're not doing it riding your dirt bike. Okay, so you've got to figure out a way to be safe enough to enjoy your hobby, because I think there's a lot of things that come along with having something that you're working towards as an adult, as your mental health and all these things start to get compromised from the chaos of the outside world. There's nothing worse than this being the thing that releases some of that energy, and then you bust your butt and you're broken off for 3 months. You can't work and you can't do the thing that makes you feel good, right? So I think the importance of what we're doing has just never been at a higher level than it is now. And I don't think it's ever going to decline, you know? That's my opinion. And hopefully, my company's goal is to put more of this into the world where when people buy a bike, they have some guidance. I mean, I'm sure we've got new bikes and new riders around here that's like, okay, there's your, you spent your $5,000. I think there's a field over there. There's a track over there you could go ride. It's completely safe, right? What a disaster. It's such a crazy backwards thing that this sport is so technical, and there's just no one, I shouldn't say no one, there's just not that many people talking about how dangerous when it is when you don't have the technique down. It's crazy. Oh, it's so much more fun. It's like, yeah, the most common question I have is like, how do I hit a rut or how do I whip? It's like, dude, your feet, you look like you're emulating what a duck walks like. Like, don't worry about whipping. You're going to die out there. Right? Like, and I'm just being truthful with it all. It's like, figure out the basics. Figure out the basics. I was just talking to a friend on the phone the other day, and he was like, is motocross hard? I'm like, here's what it is to me in my mind. It's ballet while you're riding at max heart rate. So go sprint for 20 minutes and then see if you can do some dancing and look normal. Okay? That's what it is. It's got to be fluid, but it's also extremely intense. It's UFC fighting when you crash because the earth's trying to kill you along with a bike, right? I mean, we would all agree with that, right? So it's like you got the ballet side, you got the crashing side. It's like, dude, you gotta figure out how to dance on that thing and be fluid with it, so you avoid the hard side. And then the technical side's like golf. I don't know if anyone plays golf here, but it is so technical to be able to hit that little itty bitty ball with that little piece of metal the same way every single time, right? All the movements have to match. It's the same thing. You guys will learn today. All these movements have to match and flow together for it to work.
I'm really good at golf. Why do I suck so bad on this thing?
Well, we'll see about after. Give me a few months. And what is really good?
70.
That's pretty dang good. Yeah, you should be better at dirt bikes. I don't know what's wrong with you. Why are you here? I don't think it completely translates, but the technicalities of the two sports, they remind me of each other. That's why I think you see a lot of pro racers playing golf, because I think it feeds that same part of their brain where it's very thoughtful, and when everything lines up, it's that good dopamine hit of like, oh gosh, that was the spot, So anyways, I just add this in to space it out a little bit and give you one extra straightaway to work your front to back balance. The first drill that we're going to do is going to be a neutral seated position. So you're just going to put the bike in second gear and cruise around slow in that perfect neutral seated position. You guys want an example? I can throw my helmet on and hop on a bike and show you.
Here, man.
I don't want to have to start it.
I'll start it.
Give me something that's easier.
Here.
You can run on
Oh, you don't want this one?
Yeah, I'll do it. I mean, if you want to start it, I'll ride the old 69 machine. But this guy's been making fun of me on the internet already, so here's your opportunity. not much to it. Just cruise around. That was just kind of to show pace. I want you guys to go slow and focus on your footwork. Elbows up, hands turned in, long flat back. I don't think I got neutral on it. That's okay. The only time I want you guys to race around is after I pull you off the track to get back into your start with your bike off. Because the quicker you get back there, the quicker I can give feedback and get this group off. Okay, so you guys just buzz in, cut the bike off, and I can give you a little bit of feedback. How was that?
Good, good.
Okay, so I saw a couple of you guys thinking, right? I can see when you come by me, you tighten the feet up. When I'm saying fix your feet, that means tuck them in where you can feel your toes and they can't move in any further. There's a few of you guys that were close, but over-exaggerate the movement because when you land in the woods or the trails or the track, it's going to go back in between what you used to do and what you're doing here. So make it as tall as you can with the elbows, as tall as you can with the back, as tight as you can with your feet. Squeeze the bike, rotate the hips. Exaggerate, over-exaggerate while it's easy because that was the easiest it's going to be all day right there. Okay? Can you guys do that? Can you guys ride neutral seated? There's no standing up. There's no feet off in the corners. There's no racing around. Sit perfect neutral seated position for 4 minutes. Can you handle it? Yeah. All right, let's try it. Shoulder? Collarbone? Yep. Okay, well you ride like that. Okay, so when you ride, it tells me you've been hurt, you didn't build the strength back to where it was at one point. You got to find time to do that because you're riding all like this. Okay, all right, and you got, you can tell you know how to do it, but you got to get strengthened up. You don't want to be uneven because uneven, you can get away with it when everything's going good. When it goes bad and you least expect it, that's when things go wild. Okay, how'd it feel? I thought you guys looked pretty good. You're going to have to keep correcting yourself, right? Keep thinking about the movements. We're moving on from here. So we're basically going to do the same thing on this one, guys, but we're going to try to connect on throttle to on brake. So as soon as we come off throttle, we meet brakes. So to go, brake. All right, we're not doing a lot of upper body movement yet because I don't want a lot of speed. I want you to just get above idle, hold it steady. As soon as the throttle stop hits, the brakes start. Sitting. This whole hour is sitting. Everything you do will be seated this hour. Everything you do the next hour will be standing. So just count your blessings while you're here. Okay, because the next hour won't feel the same for your body. All right, so we're connecting throttle to brakes on this one. Same position. Whatever we do, guys, this is for everyone's ears. Whatever we do, we're just adding a layer. We take nothing away from what we've already done. So we still have the good body position. We're just adding the brakes in.
Adding front brake as well or just back brake?
If you can handle both, but if you can't handle both, start with back. Okay?
Are we picking our foot completely up and covering the rear brake when we're doing seated?
Yeah, you're going to have to go back and forth no matter what the whole time, standing or seated. All right, let's do it. Standing and sitting and a little no-handed braking contest all on this little to the end basically. Okay, so we won't have any more breaks other than your 4 minutes of sitting. So this first set's going to be a neutral standing. Basically we're repeating the same thing we just did but off the seat. Okay, so we use the seated position to build the foundation for this, and then this is really the meat and potatoes. Like you get the most out of this, put most of your focus on this, making sure that all your positions are correct. And it's going to translate to outside of just this oval much quicker. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hop on a bike. I'm going to show you one lap neutral standing, which is going to be your first drill for 4 minutes. Your second drill is going to be finding the brakes with a little bit of power forward, brake back. The third drill is going to be a heavier power forward, brake back, so a lot of movement upper body and then lower body. And then the fourth drill will be all that one-handed. So I'll do 4 laps total, showing you one of each. But your first drill is going to be neutral standing position, cruising around second gear for 4 minutes. Can I ride the old 350? One of the few ones that don't burn my legs when I'm standing up. How are we feeling?
Good.
You made it through the drills, okay? Make sure you take some notes on those pretty quick after we get done here, what you did. Basically, we went through a neutral seated, power forward, brake back, and then we got to one-handed. So if you just think about those 6 drills, you could go a long ways with those, and you don't need much space or anything special in order to get them, as you saw today. We did a lot of training on a little bit of property, okay?
Piggyback on the work, my wife, and good Lord.
Perfect.
We're grateful for our health.
Perfect.
We're all healthy here and doing something that we love.
Love that. How about you? Yeah, best community in the world, I think. Been around quite a few, and I mean, you definitely have some knuckleheads at the races, mainly in the 50 and 65 classes. They grow out of it though by 85s. The dads grow up, and the moms too. You're not off the hook. Moms be crazy too. I've seen some real wild mothers out there. Like, dang, what is going on? Who peed in your Cheerios this morning, you know? So, you'll do the jiu-jitsu?
They get intense.
No, I do already.
Oh, you do?
Oh, you do?
Me too. Yeah, just for the mini dad, seriously. Because you never know. I talk too much crap about them. I'm ready for one to get me from behind, you know?
Right.
Just kidding. Don't put that on the internet. He's like, oh, no, that's the first thing to say.